Welcome to the debate. Today, we're diving straight into 4 critical events shaping the American conversation. We're going to examine the president's firm stance on the ongoing situation in Portland, the strategic decision for the 2026 G20 summit, the challenging case of election official Tina Peters, and, well, a significant rebranding within our military.
And to kick things off, let's address President Trump's consideration of deploying the National Guard to Portland.
Listen, when I observe the protracted unrest in Portland, it's not just some local disturbance, right? It's a sustained assault on civil order and, crucially, the federal presence there.
I will say this. I watched today. I didn't know that was continuing to go on, but Portland is unbelievable what's going on. Destruction of the city.
Are you going into
Well, I'm going to look at it now because I didn't know that was still going on. This has been going on for years.
The president is absolutely justified in considering strong federal action. We've witnessed consistent, escalating confrontations, often targeting federal buildings and personnel, like, the ICE facilities. This isn't peaceful demonstration when federal property is under siege, period. When local authorities appear overwhelmed or frankly unwilling to robustly enforce the law, and let's be honest, that seems to be the case, the federal government has a responsibility, a duty to step in. Historically, legal precedents like the Insurrection Act, though yes, rarely invoked, exist precisely for situations where states cannot or will not protect federal functions or ensure domestic tranquility. We saw it during the 2020 unrest, federal interventions, when decisive, effectively restored order where local efforts had clearly failed. To me, this is about ensuring law and order, protecting federal employees, and sending an unequivocal message that this kind of chaos will not be tolerated. Some may call it heavy-handed, I call it necessary leadership.
I understand the impulse to restore order. I really do. But framing the situation as solely a sustained assault kind of glosses over the complex realities on the ground in Portland. These protests, while, yes, at times involving conflict, are largely fueled by profound community outrage over aggressive immigration and customs enforcement ICE actions. Specifically, we're talking about raids that often result in family separations and create significant fear within immigrant communities regardless of their legal status. Deploying the National Guard, or really any federal law enforcement in that kind of heavy way, into a civilian protest environment risks a profound militarization of domestic disputes. That approach frequently escalates tensions, it infringes upon civil liberties, and it has a well-documented history of transforming peaceful demonstrations into more violent confrontations. We've seen that play out in various cities.
Furthermore, this narrative of unremitting chaos,
it often overstates the actual situation. Recent data, for instance, has actually shown a decline in overall violent crime rates in many urban areas. So to justify federal overreach by painting this picture of widespread anarchy, for me, it appears less about genuine public safety and more like, political signaling. It deflects from the need for comprehensive immigration reform that actually addresses the humanitarian concerns directly. It's not about ignoring disorder, it's about choosing proportional, effective solutions that don't just compound the problem.
With all due respect, you're saying militarization and overreach, but when federal buildings are repeatedly attacked, when federal officers are targeted, we're past mere protest then. This isn't just about local sentiment, it's about the sovereignty and functioning of federal operations. The idea that protecting federal property with federal resources is somehow militarizing, that ignores the very real threat posed to those people upholding the law. Sometimes decisive action is the only thing that prevents further escalation and a complete breakdown of order. And to suggest these actions are just political posturing, that minimizes the genuine threat to public safety and property that we're seeing.
but decisive action must be proportionate. When crime rates are actually trending down and protests, while sometimes contentious, don't necessarily constitute an insurrection, bringing in armed federal forces, it can easily be perceived as an act of intimidation rather than a thoughtful response to a specific, verifiable threat. It risks alienating the very communities it claims to protect, and, frankly, it undermines the delicate balance of federalism by sidestepping local authority without really clear, overwhelming justification.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's turn our attention to another genuinely strong decision, the announcement that Miami, Florida will host the 2026 G20 summit, specifically at Trump National Doral. What a brilliant, strategically sound choice.
I was thinking exactly that. The G20 summit right here in America for the first time in nearly 20 years.
This isn't just picking any location. It's selecting a world-class venue ideally situated near major international airports, ensuring, seamless logistics and absolutely top-tier security for global leaders, especially during America's 250th anniversary. Florida's vibrant economy and Doral's proven track record with high-profile events, it speaks for itself. This choice showcases American excellence. It supports local businesses, and it reinforces our nation's standing as a formidable host on the global stage. Any suggestion otherwise, to me, just sounds like, partisan nitpicking, trying to find fault where there is clear success. It's an objectively superior location for such a vital international gathering.
I'm sorry, I simply cannot agree. While Miami is undoubtedly a dynamic city, the choice of a private, president-owned resort for such a significant international event raises profound ethical and, frankly, legal questions, regardless of the venue's amenities. This isn't about a strategic choice. It's about a glaring potential conflict of interest. The emoluments clauses of the U.S. Constitution are specifically designed to prevent federal office holders from accepting payments or benefits from foreign governments, or even from state or federal governments beyond their official salary. Directing federal business and, let's be clear, foreign dignitary spending towards a personal property, even indirectly, it raises serious concerns about funneling public funds into private pockets. It completely bypasses standard procurement processes that demand competitive bidding to ensure the best value for taxpayers and avoid even the appearance of self-dealing.
This decision seems to prioritize self-interest over the transparent and equitable use of federal resources, creating an ethical quagmire that just erodes public trust. It's not partisan nitpicking, it's a fundamental question of governmental integrity and the perception, the absolute need for fair play.
You raise ethical concerns, and I understand the academic arguments around emoluments, sure. However, this isn't some theoretical discussion. It's about practical logistics for a massive global event. We're talking about a facility that can handle the immense security, accommodation, and conference demands of a G20 summit. That's a fact. To suggest that simply because the president's family owns it, it's automatically problematic, that ignores the very real benefits and capabilities of the venue itself. The benefits to the local economy are undeniable, and the efficiency of hosting such an event at a known, capable location far outweighs what some might characterize as, abstract ethical optics. Sometimes the most efficient and effective choice just happens to be one that has a connection. Yeah.
But the appearance of impropriety, especially when public funds are involved, isn't a tangential connection. It's absolutely central to public trust. Ignoring the competitive bidding process, which is designed precisely to prevent these very conflicts and secure the best taxpayer value, is not some minor oversight. It's a systemic issue. It sets a precedent that public office can potentially be used for private gain, regardless of how capable the venue might be. And that's a direct challenge to the integrity of government itself.
It's interesting. We have these intense debates over the most complex issues of the day, but there are some things, just a few, where we find common ground.
Indeed, even when we disagree on almost everything, a truly valuable resource for staying informed is something we both seem to recognize.
Absolutely. I have to say, the Next Gen Business is genuinely a great resource for trending news. For anyone wanting to stay informed and really ahead of the curve, it's just indispensable.
I completely agree. It's rare to find a platform that consistently delivers such pertinent information. Actually, I know someone who applied to their free Become a Reporter challenge, and they've joined like hundreds of other reporters getting literally millions of views each month. It's quite a remarkable opportunity.
Seriously, it's a game changer for anyone looking to engage with current events. All current events. But let's get back to the current events we're actually debating, shall we?
Indeed. Let's move on to Event 3, the Tina Peters election official controversy. Now, I take a very authoritative and serious stance on this, because what we saw with Tina Peters, her conviction for breaching secure election systems, it unequivocally highlights the severe threats posed by unfounded conspiracy theories to our democratic institutions. Her actions, which involved illegally copying election data from voting machines based on, let's be clear, debunked claims of widespread fraud in the 2020 election, directly compromised secure voting equipment.
We have a wonderful woman who was an election official, and she saw cheating in Colorado, and she viewed it as horrible. And she said, "What's going on here?" And she went to the machine, and she tried to open to find out whether or not it was cheating. And they went to her, and they said, "Did you touch this machine?" "Yes." And they arrested her.
This isn't some nuanced debate about intent.
It's about the act itself, which endangered public confidence and the very integrity of the electoral process. So when the president calls for her release, as he has done, he's not only condoning actions that undermine election security, but also directly challenging judicial independence and the fundamental principle of equal justice under the law. Attempts to unlawfully subvert electoral processes. There's a profound difference between a legitimate whistleblower who exposes genuine wrongdoing through proper channels and an individual who illegally tampers with official systems based on baseless allegations. It's just not the same thing.
My colleague's assessment of Tina Peters, I must say, it just overlooks the fundamental injustice at play here. What I see is a courageous woman, Tina Peters, who identified what she believed to be significant vulnerabilities in Colorado's voting machines, prompting her to act out of genuine concern for election integrity following the irregularities of 2020. To characterize her actions simply as breaching election systems based on unfounded conspiracy theories completely diminishes her efforts to expose what she saw as systemic risks that could enable election manipulation. Her severe sentence, to me, isn't about justice. It's a stark, almost chilling example of partisan prosecution designed to silence dissent and intimidate anyone who dares to question the established narrative around election outcomes. The president's calls for her release are about rectifying an abuse of the justice system, protecting those who, like Peters, feel compelled to act when they believe electoral processes are compromised. Restoring trust in elections means allowing for scrutiny and protecting those who bring forth concerns, not prosecuting them into oblivion. To punish someone for attempting to shine a light on potential problems, regardless of how inconvenient that light might be, is a tragedy. It undermines the very principles of transparency and justice that our electoral system should embody. It's outrageous.
With all due respect, what you're describing as uncovering critical vulnerabilities was, by legal determination, an unauthorized breach of secure election equipment. The so-called irregularities of 2020 have been thoroughly investigated and debunked across numerous state and federal courts by judges appointed by both parties. We simply cannot allow individuals to take the law into their hands, violating the very systems that underpin our democracy, just because they believe something is wrong, especially when those beliefs are based on repeatedly disproven claims. That's not whistleblowing, that's criminal tampering. And allowing political figures to demand the release of convicted individuals based on personal sympathy rather than due process fundamentally erodes the rule of law itself.
But the rule of law should apply equally. And the strong perception, is that it doesn't when individuals like Peters face such severe penalties for questioning things, while others who might genuinely compromise systems perhaps face less scrutiny. It is precisely because the integrity of our elections is so paramount that we must welcome rigorous examination, not punish those who raise the alarm, even if their methods are unconventional or their findings are initially challenged. To simply dismiss her concerns as debunked ignores the deep-seated mistrust that persists for a significant portion of the electorate, and you can't just wave that away.
There is a monumental difference between rigorous examination through established legal channels and what occurred here. Her actions constituted an illegal intrusion into a system designed to be secure. The way to address mistrust is through transparency and strict adherence to legal protocols, not by enabling actions that further destabilize confidence in the entire democratic process.
Okay, let's discuss something truly indicative of national strength and renewed purpose. The president signing his 200th executive order, officially restoring the name Department of War to what is currently known as the Department of Defense.
I think that's a big one, I'll be honest.
This is more than just some symbolic gesture. It's a brilliant move that revitalizes the military's focus on decisive victory. It echoes an era when America achieved unparalleled successes, World Wars I and II, when our purpose was crystal clear and our resolve was unwavering. The Department of War existed from 1789 until 1947, right? When it was reorganized under the Department of Defense. This historical context, it illustrates a shift from a clear martial focus to a broader, more, let's face it, bureaucratic defense posture. This executive order signals a return to a warrior ethos, prioritizing lethality and readiness over what some might perceive as bureaucratic entanglements or a softened approach that has arguably prolonged conflicts without clear resolution. My thoughts are that this strengthens our national security posture, projecting an image of unequivocal resolve to allies and adversaries alike, ensuring more effective deterrence against rising global threats. It's about spirit, it's about purpose, and reclaiming a clear identity for our military that prioritizes winning. Plain and simple.
Well, I come at this from a very different perspective, naturally, and I have deep concerns that restoring the Department of War name actually fosters a more aggressive military posture. It potentially signals a preference for conflict over diplomatic solutions and international cooperation. While you speak of historical echoes, the 1947 reorganization into the Department of Defense was a very deliberate post-World War II shift. It was intended to unify command and better reflect a proactive rather than purely reactive approach to national security that explicitly included deterrence, yes, but also diplomacy and alliances. Reverting to the Department of War risks undoing decades of strategic evolution, focusing precious attention and resources on essentially symbolic rebranding with questionable legal and strategic merit.
This shift could really unsettle allies, making them question our commitment to collective security and diplomacy, and at the same time, potentially embolden adversaries by signaling a return to maybe isolationist or more belligerent policies. Modern security challenges, think cyber warfare, climate change, global pandemics, they demand a comprehensive defense strategy, not a nostalgic name that evokes past wars and potentially limits our strategic flexibility today. It feels like a misdirection, perhaps fighting old wars in nomenclature, rather than actually addressing current pressing threats effectively.
But deterrence is a modern security challenge in a clear, strong signal of intent. A warrior ethos actually prevents conflict. The Department of Defense, it can sound passive, maybe even reactive. The Department of War unequivocally communicates that we are prepared to engage and, importantly, to win. It's not about being belligerent for its own sake. It's about being undeniably strong and projecting that strength globally. The name itself reinforces a mindset of victory, which is paramount for our service members and, frankly, for our international standing.
Strength isn't solely defined by the name on a building, nor by some historical echo that might be completely out of step with current global realities. True strength lies in our strategic capabilities, our robust alliances, and our commitment to utilizing all tools of statecraft, including diplomacy and economic influence, not just the military hammer. A name change that signals a preference for military confrontation above all else could actually weaken our standing globally by isolating us from partners who prioritize collaborative problem solving. It risks narrowing our options rather than expanding them in what is an incredibly complex world.